Trump's recent comments revealed growing frustration over Iran's insistence on uranium enrichment. How do you see this being a dispute reflecting the deeper mistrust between Washington and Tehran? And how would it affect the upcoming sixth round of talks, do you think?
Thank you for having me, Salma. Greetings to you, your guest, and the honorable audience.
Thank you.
It seems that the problem of enrichment, or the issue of uranium enrichment, is the biggest outstanding issue in the Iran-USA negotiations over the past few weeks. It seems that even though the two counterparts have went through six sessions of or six rounds of negotiations, it doesn't seem that either side is willing to give the necessary compromises on the subject of enrichment. The United States, in its latest proposal presented to Tehran, has insisted that zero enrichment should be the baseline of any future agreement with regards to Iran's nuclear program. Iran, of course, very vocally and publicly rejected the U.S. proposal, and the Iranian Foreign Ministry even used very harsh language to describe it, calling it delusional, before flatly rejecting it. And now the Iranians are preparing their own proposal to present to the Americans. And even the timing of the next round of negotiations is up in the air. We know that there is a next round of negotiation. However, President Trump said it will be on Thursday, meaning tomorrow. The U.S. State Department said maybe it will be on Sunday. So it doesn't seem that even both parties have agreed on the time and place of the next negotiating round, which indicates mistrust and
Yes.
deep disagreements still remain.
Well, Mr. Sulaiman, Dr. Osman just mentioned Iran as preparing a proposal, and it says it's going to be a reasonable and balanced counter proposal accordingly, while warning that if the nuclear negotiations fail and the conflict arises with the U.S., Iran will strike American bases in the region. How likely is Iran to take such an action, and how much room does it really have to compromise, do you think, sir?
Greetings to you and your viewers. I think that we are before clashes of statements, and each side has tools to try to serve it to gain more gains. And the American side is using the sanction tools to pressure in Iran. And also the upcoming pressures by the IAEA and the quarter yearly of the agency governor, in addition to of the third part by Israel through different threats. But Iran dealt with all threats by different means. From one hand, that employed the diplomatic tools through the statements of the foreign minister, affirming that Iran's readiness to provide transparency and facilitate the outreach in the IAEA and the relevant body. On the other hand, directly used a threat of rhetoric by the IAEA, talking that the three countries, such as Germany, France, and Britain, by issuing resolutions by the Governor Council, described as a strategic mistake. In addition, that Iran dealt with Israel's side through the determined balance by talking to an intel document that they gained related to the Israeli activities and some of vital targets. And therefore, I think that we are about to, before threaten deterrent statements by all, affirm that there are tensions and a great gap between two sides. Each side is trying to pressure the other. As Dr. Osman said, that the contradictions regarding the timing of the upcoming round is affirm the nature of the great gap. But ultimately, up till this moment, vision of a peaceful solution did not criticized, and we are before one or two negotiations. There is a space of diplomacy, as Rafael Grossi spoke, the general director of the agency, and I think Iran's statement is trying to make some sort of a balance and keep the negotiations in the corner available.
Dr. Osman, the IAEA is reportedly preparing to censure Iran in the Board of Governors, which could trigger a snapback, which is the reimposition of all the UN sanctions that were originally lifted into 2015, the nuclear deal. Do you see this as a move of a step towards multilateral pressure, or an escalation that could collapse the talks?
Of course, this could have some sort, it's a double sword, to be honest. On the one hand, it is being utilized by the United States in order to apply more pressure on Iran to force it to be more flexible in the negotiating process. However, if the sanctions are snapped back on Iran by the entirety of the international community or by the West, at least, namely Britain, France, and Germany, and other EU states. Of course, this will push Iran to be even more stringent and uncooperative and more prone to actually develop its nuclear program to the extent of developing nuclear weapons even. And this is something that Rafael Grossi himself, the director of the IAEA, said, that if Iran is attacked or subjected to immense pressure, he was told by the Iranians that they might actually pursue nuclear weapons.
So Dr. Osman, you actually think it's going to make Iran more uptight rather than actually easing things?
Might, if it's overdone. If it's overdone, as I said, it will be it's a double-edged sword. If it's used wisely, threaten Iran without actually snapping those sanctions back on in full force, maybe then Iran might be prone to be more flexible in the negotiations. However, if they apply those sanctions in order to strangle Iran and corner it, of course, Iran will be more stringent and will be way more aggressive. And President Trump himself described the Iranians that as of late they have become
as being more aggressive in their talks recently.
Exactly.